The cellist first came to me as an atmosphere. I could feel into it before I had really any tangible elements of the story. I think in part it was this romantic ideal that I liked to escape to when at the time my life didn't feel very artistic or very beautiful. I created this imaginary atmosphere in my mind, and I knew that it involved the cello and that it involved academia and art, music. We're calling this video an ode to unpublished novels because as someone who spent 3 years writing a novel which will never make it into print, I wanted to take a minute to appreciate the novels and the art projects in general which don't reach a broad audience but which significantly impact the artists themselves. The cellist started forming in the back of my mind at a time when I didn't even consider myself to be a writer. I had written a lot in my childhood and I had always dreamed of being a published author, but in my adult life, I had left that part of myself in the past. And I went through a really difficult transition in my life where I was forced to rebuild myself from the ground up. And in that emotional and psychological processing of everything that I was experiencing, a story just began to surface with a lot of symbolic meaning to what I was experiencing in my life, with a lot of the same emotional undercurrents, even though the setting and the plot looked nothing like my real life. And I didn't really have any intention on writing it, but there was one day, and it was Christmas Eve. I had just put my kids down to bed, and it suddenly hit me that I had a full story. And as soon as I realized that, I knew that I had to write it. And I was really intimidated by that because I hadn't written in so many years and I didn't even know what my voice was or what the process of writing might look like for me. And as soon as I started writing The Cellist, as soon as I opened that up, it just poured out of me because it had already been so developed in my mind, but also it became like an addiction, like I was hooked on it. I would often write in my favorite local cafe or in libraries or after the kids had gone to bed, or oftentimes even in the McDonald's play place while my kids played. Definitely a cliche, but writing brought me back home to myself, and I realized that my purpose in life wasn't walled behind certain privileges that I didn't have access to at the time. I didn't have to have anything other than a pen and paper or a laptop. I didn't even have to have all that much time to myself. I could be thinking about it while doing other things, and as long as I had a little bit of time at the end of the day to put it down onto paper or onto my computer, then I was working towards my goals. And when I was researching writing and publishing, I would often come across the idea that most authors don't get their first book published. Like, most authors have written several books by the time one of them makes it into print. And at the time, I had to basically reject this idea. I had to believe that I was the exception. I had to live in the delusion that I was different. This story was different. And it felt so important and so big, so much bigger than me, like something that I was channeling, that it only made sense to me that it was going to be spread far and wide and impact many people. So I had to live under that belief that this book was definitely going to be published, and while I was writing, I was holding on to that as the end goal. And looking back, I see myself grappling with this through the characters themselves, because the story takes place in the art world and every character has a different relationship with art. I can see myself working through these things through the different characters and the contrasts between them. In particular, two of the main characters, there's the protagonist, Blake, who is really ambitious. She wants to be a well-known composer, and it's important to her that she achieves a lot of success in her career as a musician. So much so that she's willing to sacrifice her morals, she's willing to burn herself out, she's willing to do absolutely anything that it takes to achieve success. And on the other hand, and there's her mother. And throughout the story, there are many flashbacks to her childhood and her relationship with her mother, who played the piano, but only late at night in their home, never for anyone else, never took any lessons, and she used it as a way to process her grief, process her pain, and come back home to herself. And that was the only purpose that playing the piano had to her mother. So there's this contrast between Blake's relationship with art and her mother's relationship with art, and we're kind of going back and forth throughout the story, which definitely was a reflection of myself grappling with these two different approaches to creating. And by the time I had finished the third and final draft, I knew that I was going to be querying literary agents, but I honestly felt that I didn't need it to go any further than it had, which I was really surprised by, because this whole time my plan had been to query literary agents and to try and get an agent and to try and get published. But I felt this detachment from it, like a calm detachment from it, where I felt content with how far it had gone. I mean, through it I found my voice. I reclaimed my identity as a writer and rediscovered how important creativity is in my life, and connected with my critique partner, who is now a lifelong connection of mine that I value a lot. I worked through a lot of complex emotions that I just needed to put into story and make symbolic meaning of in order to process and understand in myself. And so I really didn't need it to go any further than that. I still had hopes for it. I still put my best foot forward in the querying process. But so when I first started querying a few months ago, that first week was initially very exciting, because my very first response from an agent was a rejection, but it was a personalized rejection. Later in the week, I got a response requesting the first 50 pages of my manuscript. I kind of stopped querying for a while. I had some more rejections roll in and a lot of no responses. I decided to send a couple more, and I sent one, and then 15 minutes later, the agent responded and was interested in my full manuscript. And a few days later, she reached out and said that she read the whole thing and sees promise, and wanted to set up a call. But she did say, transparently, she thinks the manuscript needs a very significant revision. I set up the meeting. It's happening in a few days now. I've taken some time. I'm glad I had a couple weeks in between that and the meeting to really sit with that and to really consider if going at a significant revision, a full rewrite basically is what I'm assuming, is something that I think I should spend my time doing over the next few months or not. I sat with that for a while and I really considered it, and honestly, I didn't feel like I wanted to. I felt like I had done my time with the novel and that I was ready to let it be in my past. I had a new story that was calling to me that I wanted to commit myself to, and it just felt like I had outgrown it in a way, and like it had served its purpose already. Near the end of the story, there's a scene where Blake flashes back to a conversation that she had with her music instructor, and she's talking about what she wants to do with her music and in her career as a musician. And at the time of writing this was in the final draft, so this was a late edition, and it was when I was being faced with the next phase of the book, which would have been querying. So I wrote this section where the instructor is talking to Blake, and I'm just going to read it here. So her instructor says, "Anytime we allow inspiration to breathe through us and into the world, whatever is produced is sacred. It belongs to us and only us until we decide that it's time to be released into the world, and then it belongs to the world and no longer to us. The world, unlike the heavens, can contort our visions and exploit our art once it has a hold of it. That's not to say it inevitably will, just that it is one unfortunate possibility. An artist who shares their art with the masses is not more worthy than an artist artist who protects their art and preserves its preciousness. Art is not measured by its reach or its reception. Art is not measured at all, really. It simply is. We create because inspiration is always a part of us, whispering quietly inside of ourselves. And when we open ourselves to it, it simply escapes out into the world. That's all there is to it. So at the time of writing this, I was imagining my book going on to the next phase, which would mean it being judged by literary agents, going through rounds of revisions with different people, the agents, the editors, and bringing in all these different voices and involvement from people that weren't myself, people with different visions, different tastes and preferences, different ideas of what the book is and what it should be. And I realized, and I had to come to peace with the fact that in doing that, I really would be handing this over to the world and letting it belong to the world and not just to myself. And so I made my peace with that before I started querying, but I felt just as peaceful about the idea of it not going that far and in preserving something in it by keeping it to myself and preserving the meaning that it had had to me in writing it. So to all the unpublished authors out there with your unpublished novels, please know that your work is just as valuable even when it doesn't go very far, even when its impact is self-contained. Creativity as an impulse is egoless. Inspiration doesn't care how it's received, it just wants to move. So let it move you. And when it's done, know that it's done exactly what it's supposed to do, which is something that we can never claim to understand.